able to identify his last name through the registered owner's last name.
And you stated he was, unconscious or coming to when you first approached him?
Yes, he was coming to, very dazed when I first made contact with him. But yes, coming to.
Did you make any other observations of the defendant as you arrived on to the vehicle?
As soon as I opened the door, the smell of an alcoholic beverage, very dazed. Definitely signs of intoxication is what I was observing.
And what did you do at that point?
Just asked him basic questions like where he was going, where he's coming from, things like that. Tried to get a feel of what was going on there. And then, of course, we're trying to get fire personnel there because of the accident. It was an unknown accident, to get him checked out.
Did he make any statements during this process?
Statements that he made was he did not know where he was going. He believed he was in the area of an auditorium along 80. He was believing he was at the hospital. I asked him why he didn't have shoes on. He didn't know that reason. There was a lot of statements that were made that weren't making sense to the whole situation, which I was trying to put together and investigate.
So he told you that he didn't have shoes on?
I asked him why he didn't have shoes on. He couldn't provide an answer to that.
Okay, so you observed him without shoes?
That is correct.
Did you observe shoes anywhere in the vehicle that he could have been wearing at some point?
Nowhere in his vicinity, no.
Did you see any weapons?
So as we got the seatbelt removed, things like that, before I turned over to fire personnel to have him checked out, there was a knife that was located at his feet. So I actually removed that knife for my safety and for his safety so he wouldn't cut himself or anything like that on his feet.
At this point in the investigation, what potential crimes would you be investigating?
All we had right now was the operating while intoxicated.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Pending the witness must be marked. Pending the witness must be marked as State's Exhibit 29. Have you put on a pair of gloves and then open that box.
All right.
And while you're doing that, make sure you don't show that to the jury until it's admitted into evidence.
That's cool.
Is it possible while he's doing so that he indicate what he's cutting through, just so the jury's informed?
That would, I'll ask the witness to do so.
Yes, so we have evidence to seal on here, so that makes sure the item isn't tampered with during that time period. So it's been sealed by the detective or the officer that ended up putting it in here. The initial case put a date on it along with their badge number. So that way we know, make sure it's been not tampered with.
Okay. Do you recognize the contents of that box?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell me what it is?
This would be the knife that was located at the foot of the driver of that vehicle.
Okay. Do you recognize it as the knife that you recovered on in the early morning hours of March 14th, 2024 from that vehicle?
Yes, that's the knife I removed from the vehicle.
Okay. Your Honor, the state would move to admit Exhibit 29.
No objection, State 29, Your Honor.
Exhibit 29 will be admitted.
Okay. Permission to show it to the jury?
You may.
If you could show that knife to the jury.
Okay. Knife. Make sure all you guys can see it.
Okay. Thank you. I'll retrieve that and put it back on the table. The knife you just viewed, is that in substantially the same condition as when you first retrieved it from the vehicle?
So again, the weather that night was pouring down rain. So when I removed it, I took it outside the vehicle, put it on top, and put it on the trunk also, as I moved it throughout twice before I put it back in the vehicle. It would have had more blood on it at that point, but through the rain, it was pretty much, the blood came off.
And can you give us a sense for how hard it was raining that evening?
It was a good downpour during this whole situation.
So you said you retrieved the knife, you set it on the Impala?
Originally set it on top while the fire was dealing with them, and I also put it to the trunk at one point.
Okay, and what did you ultimately do with that knife?
Once we turned the driver over to medic for transport to the hospital, we realized it had nothing to do with what we were investigating, so I put it back in the vehicle to be towed away with the vehicle.
Who else arrived on scene other than you?
Right behind me, Deputy Turner, Jake Turner.
And were there medic personnel?
Yes, medic and fire personnel from Davenport Police or Fire Department.
Okay. Did you observe any injuries on the defendant on scene?
One of the questions I asked him if he was injured or if he had any pain, he indicated that he had pain to his waist area at that point, and then one of the fire chiefs of Davenport came over towards the end of my dealings out there and said that they found a laceration.
I'll have you stop right there.
Yep.
Did you personally observe any injuries?
I did not.
Okay. Were you wearing a body camera that night?
I was.
And was it functioning properly?
It was.
And have you reviewed that body camera footage from that evening?
I have.
And was it a fair and accurate depiction of what you observed?
It is.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
And the witness must be marked as Exhibit 55, which is the body camera from that evening. You said it was a fair and accurate depiction of that evening.
It would be, yes.
Your Honor, the state moves to introduce State's Exhibit 55.
Your Honor, I have no objection. I just want to indicate that this was provided to us prior to it being offered today in its redacted form, and we'd had an opportunity to review it in full. So again, we have no objection.
Exhibit 55 will be admitted.
Thank you. Permission to publish?
You may.
Okay, before I play the video, do you see that pointer behind you?
Yes.
I want to point out a couple of things. First of all, in the upper right-hand corner, there's some, it says 3/14/2024. Would that be the correct date that this body camera footage is taken from?
That is correct, and time.
And then right after that, it says 01/54/51. That would be 1:54 a.m.
Correct.
Okay. Go ahead and play it. Pause it, trying to figure out why the sound isn't playing.
Mr. Larson, we sometimes have this issue. If you want to take a few moments to work on that, we can excuse the jury just for a few moments.
We, maybe try it one more way and then we can excuse them. I
Sure.
think I maybe have it
Sure.
troubleshot. Then again, maybe I don't. So if we could take a few moments.
Ladies and gentlemen, we do our best with the technology, but sometimes we do have these issues. I'm sure you experience the same thing in your own personal lives. So we'll adjourn just for a moment. I would remind you of your admonition. Please do not discuss this case amongst yourselves, and please continue to keep an open and attentive mind. Mr. Larson, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm now starting Exhibit 55 from the beginning.
Can you wake up for me? Buddy, can you look at me? Are you alright?
Yeah.
You were in an accident. Do you know that?
No.
Where were you heading to? Do you know where you're at all or anything?
Yeah, I was on the auditorium.
Where were you heading, you think?
The auditorium.
The auditorium?
Yeah.
Where's the auditorium at?
The ADM. ADM.
What's your name?
Christian.
Chris?
Chris.
Ian?
Chris Levy. Oh.
Okay. Since I have a Chris, I don't have the last name yet. Alright, I'm gonna have fire personnel check you out here in a second, alright?
Yeah.
Just seeing what else we have over there. Nothing over there? Alright. Whose car is this? You don't know whose car it is?
Nope.
Okay. Alright.
I'll see. He said his name's Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's him. That's the same last name. Alright. Can you hit the seatbelt over there for me?
Yeah.
Nothing on you, right?
Nope.
Okay, what hurts on you right now?
No, nothing other than my waist belt.
Your waist hurts?
Yeah, my waist.
Your waist hurts there? Okay. All right, these fire guys are going to talk to you real quick. Make sure you're okay. I'm going to step out of the way.
Hi. I just recently dealt with it.
Oh, he's
99 too.
is he? I'm guessing he's wasted too. So he's on something.
I'm going to pause it right there for a moment. We're at, according to the time on the body camera, 1:56 a.m. and 57 seconds. We see another deputy or uniformed individual in the picture. Can you tell us who that is?
That would be Deputy Jake Turner.
Okay. I'll continue.
There's an auditorium. He's going to the auditorium by 80, wherever that's at. Oh, he's going to be transported, so we probably just... I'll take care of Fred's if you want to go to the hospital, read him, like him, sign, all that stuff. County 6, go ahead and stop near Fred's. So where are you bleeding at down here? Your foot's all got blood on it. Where's your shoes at? Do you know where your shoes are at?
No.
Okay. Did you just jump in the vehicle from...
Yeah.
Where'd you leave from then?
Not sure.
Not sure? Alright. When you get... why is there's a knife down by your foot, so I want to make sure I move that, okay? So...
If you want to go foot, I'll put my foot in front of his mouth.
Alright. You didn't cut yourself tonight at all, did you?
Nope.
Alright. But you say you don't remember where you were coming from?
Nope.
Not at all?
Nope.
Girlfriend's house, your house, anybody's house?
Not really sure.
Okay. So do you know where you're at right now?
Hospital, I'm pretty sure.
Your hospital is where you're thinking you're at?
That's I'm pretty sure.
No. You're over by the airport.
Oh, okay.
Do you know how you got there?
Nope.
No? Okay. Alright.
Chris?
Beautiful weather for this.
Alright.
Okay, the knife you retrieved on that video, was that the same knife that you identified previously?
That would be the same knife, yes.
What did you do after this video ended as part of your investigation?
With this investigation, I pretty much did the accident report on this incident here, and then stood by until Fred's, the tow company, arrived so we could tow the vehicle away from there.
And at that point, did you clear the accident?
I did a little bit further investigation, trying to figure out why he was, the driver was at that location, because like I said, nothing was making sense what he was saying. Through our CAD system, which is our dispatch system, we could actually see local information on the driver. We could see where he lived at in prior calls. So I did a little bit of digging in there, and I actually had another deputy respond back up to 105 Crestview Drive, number 4, which was the registered known address for him and then his girlfriend, Taylor Escontrias.
You said you dispatched another deputy to the 105 Crestview, apartment number 4.
That is correct.
What deputy did you dispatch to that location?
Deputy Raby is who I dispatched.
And for a court reporter, do you know how to spell Raby?
Raabe.
And do you recall when you would have dispatched Deputy Raby to that apartment?
I believe that was right around the 2:25 a.m.
And what, I guess, is it normal to dispatch a deputy to check a residence as part of an OWI investigation?
Not normal, but with what he was saying on scene, I wanted to make sure, figure out why he was coming from where he was coming from, things like that, and also to check on her to make sure she was all right also.
And are you aware of the outcome of that welfare check?
Yes, Deputy Raby called me back minutes later after he arrived there. He knocked on the door multiple times. He actually said he called the phone number that we had listed for Taylor, but no answer. I actually asked if there was anything suspicious, and at that point, he indicated there was nothing suspicious at that residence.
At that time, was any further action taken with respect to that apartment?
Nothing for that apartment, no.
As far as you're concerned, was your OWI investigation over at that point?
It was turned over to Deputy Turner at that point, which followed medic to the hospital with the driver.
Okay, but your involvement, at least direct involvement, was done with the OWI investigation?
It was.
Was that your last involvement with the broader investigation that would later ensue?
Roughly a little bit before 4 o'clock a.m., I received a phone call or a request to call Deputy Turner, which was currently at the hospital.
And what did you do after being called by Deputy Turner?
I made contact with Deputy Turner, and he made a statement that
I'm not offering it for the truth, we're offering it so we can explain his investigative action.
Perceived by the jury's truth, I would just ask that you rephrase his question.
If you could rephrase the question, please.
Okay, without telling us what Deputy Turner told you, what were the next steps that you took in the investigation?
I made the decision that we're going to do a welfare check back at 105 Crestview Drive, number 4.
And did you dispatch, did you do that, or did you dispatch someone to do that, or how did that happen?
Pretty much my closest unit at that time was Deputy Slagle, Slagle. Dispatched him to that address, and we arrived roughly around 4:12 a.m. We both arrived about the same time.
To the 105 Crestview address.
105 Crestview address, correct.
And I don't know if you've stated what town is that in?
That would be Parkview, so it actually has an Eldridge address, but it is actually Parkview, Iowa.
And you said you went to that apartment.
Correct.
What did you do when you arrived to that apartment?
Actually, I arrived with Deputy Slagle. I had him knock on the door. I believe it was at least twice. We announced ourselves, and then I had him check the door handle, because at that point, we knew we were going to make a welfare check into that residence to make sure Taylor or any individuals in the apartment were okay.
Okay, so you and Deputy Slagle are immediately outside of that apartment, is that correct?
That is correct, apartment number 4.
And then at least one of you knocks on the door?
That is correct.
And was that you or Deputy Slagle?
Deputy Slagle.
Did anyone answer or respond to those knocks?
After, I think it was probably a minute or so, no answer, no movement. We were listening to make sure we could hear anything inside. We couldn't hear anything.
Okay, and did either one of you end up making entry to that apartment?
Yes, after we verified the door was unlocked, I had Deputy Slagle go ahead and make entry to that apartment.
And did you make any observations when he opened or made entry to the apartment?
The first statement that came out of Deputy Slagle's mouth was, "Oh shit." And then I asked what he had, and we found a deceased female right behind the door.
What happened then?
Pretty much I gave the order that we have to clear the apartment because we have to secure the scene. So both myself and Deputy Slagle made entry, secured the location, make sure that we had no other victims inside, and then no other people in the residence, and then we secured the residence at that point.
Okay, and you kind of touched on this, but what was the purpose of clearing the apartment?
Pretty much a safety check and for make sure we had no other people that were hurt in there, along with no suspects or any other individuals.
What observations did you make inside of the apartment?
As soon as we made entry, like I said, we had a deceased body up against the door. We had actually somewhat step over her to get in. Right away, we observed a baseball bat that was on the couch. There was a lot of blood, pretty much from the kitchen area to where the body was at. On the walls, it was a lot of blood.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Pending the witness what's been marked as State's Exhibit 23. I'm gonna have you put your gloves on, Lieutenant Leonard. And then here's a pair of scissors. You can narrate if you're breaking any seals, or doing anything of that. I'll have you open that and look at it. Don't show it to the jury at this point.
Okay. Got the one of the lab seal, which is from the Department of Investigations. Go ahead and cut that one, making sure that it hasn't been tampered with. We'll go ahead and, for you guys,
Okay, do you recognize that item in that box?
this would resemble the bat that was on the couch when we made entry that night.
Okay, and does it appear to be in substantially the same condition as when you first observed it in the apartment?
Of what I recall, yes.
Okay, and where was that located?
That was located on the couch, pretty much you can say the living room of that apartment. So right inside the door, the couch was there, and this was on the couch.
Your Honor, the state moves to introduce State's Exhibit 23.
No objection, State's 23, Your Honor.
Exhibit 23 will be admitted.
Permission to publish.
You may.
If you could show that to the jury.
It's loose on the bottom down there, so I just want to make sure it doesn't fall
Okay, thank you. May I approach the witness?
You may.
Can you describe the bat when you found it that evening? Or did you make any observations of the bat other than it was a bat?
out. Just pretty much it was a bat. Like I said, we made entry just for the reasonings of securing it, and then we got out of that residence just so until we can get a search warrant later on, and then we could do our investigation.
Okay, so at that point, what's the main focus of being in the apartment?
It was just securing the location and make sure, like I said, make sure we had no other victims inside or suspects.
Did medics arrive?
A medic arrived, yes, about by 4:35, I believe, roughly in that time period.
And do you remember, did you recognize the medics, or the medic that arrived?
It was our local medic individuals. I don't have their names.
Okay. Were they granted access to the apartment?
Yes, so immediately we started a log indicating who enters and leaves that apartment, because that's what we do in crime scenes like this. But yes, those names were recorded so medic could actually step in and call the time of death.
And did you observe them perform their duties?
I was actually outside at that time. Deputy Slagle was the one in charge of the log.
And what did they do once they were done with their examination?
They left.
And at this stage, was anyone else granted access to the apartment?
At that time, no one else was granted access.
Okay, and what was being done during that time frame?
At that time point, it was applying for a search warrant, getting all that information to the judge or magistrate to make entry to that apartment so we could start our investigation.
And was a search warrant obtained?
Later on that morning, yes, a search warrant was obtained.
Okay, so from when the time, or other than what you've described, from the time you arrived on scene, and you and Deputy Slagle entering, and then the medics, was anyone else allowed on the scene until the search warrant was obtained?
As far as we made it was to the number 4, the door itself. Otherwise, no one was past that until the search warrant was obtained.
Did all these events occur, excuse me, did you have any further involvement that evening with the investigation?
Besides turning everything over to investigation, into our criminal investigation division, no,
Okay, and this all happened in Scott County, Iowa?
it did.
Okay, no further questions.
Mr. Puentes?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Lieutenant.
Morning.
I'm gonna ask you to bear with me here. Sometimes I appear a little non-linear. If I should deviate from chronology, just kind of, again, try to answer my questions the best of your ability. So, you first receive a call, I believe your testimony was at approximately 1:47 a.m. From SECC, which is what? Scott Emergency, answer the rest of that for me.
Communication Center.
Perfect, and that's the 911 dispatching, is that right?
That is correct for Scott County.
And it was reported that there was a single vehicle accident, is that right?
Yes,
And you took approximately 8 minutes to arrive on scene, is that correct?
that would be about right, yes.
All right, and as you arrived on scene 8 minutes later, you found Mr. Behal in the driver's seat just coming to, is that right?
That is correct.
All right, and he was the only occupant, the solo occupant inside of this vehicle, is that correct?
That would be correct.
And you saw significant front end damage, is that right?
Correct.
And this was, again, a single vehicle accident, but it struck sort of like a concrete barricade in front of some sort of a light assembly, is that correct?
Pretty much the circle concrete barrier around a light pole.
Okay. The video does a great job, obviously, of illustrating the vehicle and kind of its condition, but I want to show you some images. Permission to approach?
You may.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as proposed defense exhibits B, C, and D. Just bear with me for a moment while I mark them. As is always the case, just look at them first. They're not yet admitted. So I just ask that you review them briefly. Tell me if you're familiar with what's depicted in those images.
So this would be the silver Impala from that night.
The same Impala that was operated, at least it's your belief, was operated by Mr. Behal, given he was in the driver's seat. Is that correct?
Due to the damage and everything, I would say this would be the vehicle.
Now, that's no longer on the scene. Is that correct?
Yes, this would probably be the Fred's location.
But nevertheless, the condition of that vehicle had not been changed, at least as to its sort of external, well, the way it's depicted in the photos.
Yeah, this would be what I seen that night, yes.
Okay, and does it fairly accurately depict what you recall seeing on that date?
Yes.
All right. Move to admit defense exhibits B, C, and D.
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibits B, C, and D will be admitted.
Permission to briefly publish.
You may.
I'm just going to show you defense exhibit B because I think it probably does the best job of just kind of displaying what I'm here to talk about. That is the vehicle as you found it again, correct?
Correct.
The vehicle again operated by Christopher Behal, is that correct?
Correct.
The term that I've always been familiar with is intrusion, which sort of illustrates the depth in which, in this case, the concrete barrier went within the front compartment of the vehicle. Is that a word you're familiar with?
I've heard, yes, I am.
Can you approximate, if you don't know with certainty, how much intrusion exists in this vehicle?
I'm not an accident investigator on that, so intrusion, no, I wouldn't be able to help you there.
Okay. Would you describe this as significant front-end impact?
I would say yes.
Thank you. Now, I believe your testimony is that you approximated the speed of the vehicle to be about 45, and I think that was informed by the posted speed limit being that 45, correct?
That would be the rough, yes, that would be correct.
Okay. And when you arrived on scene, we already discussed this, but you saw Mr. Behal just coming to, is that correct?
Correct.
And we know that the call came in at approximately 1:47, and you arrived 8 minutes later, which suggests it took him approximately 8 minutes to come to.
Somewhere in that time period, yes.
And once you were in a position to observe the sort of the cabin or the internal compartment of the vehicle, you saw that there was airbag deployment, is that right?
I did see that.
Which in your experience is just indicative of front-end impact, is that correct?
Certain speeds cause the airbag to deploy, but yes, front end damage or rear end depends.
All right. And I want to talk about the interior compartment of that just for a moment. Did you observe any shards of metal exposed?
I do not recall.
Okay. The video, again, I guess would be the best evidence of what the inside of that vehicle looked like.
Correct.
Okay, but nothing specifically stands out to you now, nothing specifically listed in your report, correct?
Correct.
All right. Do you recall seeing any sort of like sharp or jutting plastic inside of that motor vehicle?
Inside the vehicle, no.
Okay. Now, upon approach, Mr. Behal started speaking to you. I don't recall if it was sort of spontaneous or if it was in response to a question, but there was some conversation that took place. Is that right?
There was.
All right. And at least a portion of the comments given by Mr. Behal were nearly unintelligible. Is that correct?
Yes.
And it was at least in part kind of because of slurring, or at least what sounded like slurring on the video. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay. Now at this point, I mean, given your experience and kind of common sense, really, did it appear that this individual was obviously intoxicated?
We were going to investigate it as an OWI, or operational intoxicated, yes.
Okay. But given, again, your training experience, it's also quite possible he was, in conjunction with that, also concussed. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay. Now, with respect to the answers he gave you, he seemed confused, for lack of better words, about sort of where he was going and where he even was at the moment that you arrived. Is that correct?
Yes.
He was very clearly inside of a motor vehicle, parked on the side of the road. Maybe parked is a little incorrect, but nevertheless, not in a hospital, which is very clearly where he thought he was, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, circling back to what was found inside the vehicle, one of which has already been admitted, that was the knife. I think it was State's Exhibit 29, is that right? I'm not quizzing you on the exhibit number, but it is the knife, correct?
It would be the knife is what I located, yes.
All right. And my assumption, and correct me if I'm mistaken, at the time that you removed it from the vehicle, it was less about preserving evidence and more about ensuring officer safety.
Officer safety and his safety, due to the fact that it was at his feet and he was going to have to step on it or step over it or something like that.
Sure, and that's why instead of moving it, I guess, inside of the cabin, you placed it on top or out of reach of Mr. Behal, is that correct?
Correct.
In this case, that was on top of the vehicle while it was in pouring down rain.
That is correct.
Okay. Now, it is rather evident from the video, Mr. Behal was very sluggish, but would you agree he was at all times compliant?
No, he was compliant. He was trying to answer the questions, things like that. So yes, he was compliant.
And with respect to that, did it appear to you to be theater, or did it appear to be just a very dazed, intoxicated individual?
Dazed and intoxication.
So it didn't seem like he was faking it or pulling your leg, I guess is what I'm getting at.
No.
Now, he had uttered to you something about having pain on his left side, I think. Strike that. He indicated to you that he was having pain near his waist, is that correct?
Correct.
At that point, I don't think he identified which side, did he?
I believe it was just waste. He may have pointed that direction to the left side.
Okay, and you already testified you never actually sort of directly observed the injury, is that correct?
I did not observe the injury, no.
Do you know throughout the investigation whether it was identified that he did in fact have an injury?
Through the investigation, I was told where the injury was located at.
Okay. And did you at least observe any sort of blood or marks on his clothing that suggested an injury might be contained underneath it?
Correct, with the blood on his shorts, on his feet that were indicated in the video. So yes, blood on the left side of his body, what I observed.
Which at least appeared to you as though he may have been actively bleeding, is that correct?
Correct, if he was involved with an accident.
Now, within the compartment of the vehicle, I do also want to discuss this briefly. Did you see any alcohol used or otherwise within the cabin of that vehicle?
There's no other alcohol located inside that vehicle.
So there's no indication that he was drinking on the scene, is that correct?
That would be correct.
All right. Just want to ensure sort of, I guess, accuracy. The relevant times, and maybe that's just my opinion, but the important times are dispatch at 1:47, correct?
Correct.
Approximate arrival at 1:55 a.m., correct?
Correct.
And these are on March 14th, 2024, correct?
That would be correct.
You first instructed, or at least the first arrival at the domicile on Crestview, or the Crestview Apartments, I guess I should say, was at 2:25 a.m., is that correct?
Oh, correct. When Deputy Raby would have went back up there, would have been roughly around the 2:25 hour.
And then when you, along with Officer Slagle, I believe, arrived, that was at 4:12 a.m., is that right?
4:12 when we arrived at on the address on Crestview, yes.
Okay, so the difference of arrival on scene and entry into the apartments was approximately 3.5-ish hours.
That would be correct.
Okay. Now, the relevant apartment number was number 4, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, and if you know, what was the apartment number directly below apartment 4?
That should be number 2 below.
And did you personally discern, or I guess identify at any point in time, who was the occupant of apartment 2?
I did not.
Okay. Now, I do want to discuss a little bit about your training experience, just because I think it's a useful tool for the jury here. You were obviously, at least in part, investigating an OWI upon your arrival, is that correct?
Yes.
And you learn about sort of investigating, and maybe processing is a fair word, OWIs in the law enforcement academy, is that right?
Yes, and I'm also OWI instructor for the deputies and officers in Scott County.
Okay, so if you could approximate how much training related to OWI, investigations of OWIs do you possess?
So the initial training for all officers is going to be 40 hours at the academy for OWI. That's pretty much identifying, seeing everything, and then also running through them to standardized field sobriety testing, along with the use of the data master, which is the machine that is used to calculate the blood alcohol level on an individual. And then we usually have about every 2 years, we have an additional 2 to 3 hours of training reference this to keep everybody up to date on their training and experience when it comes to OWIs.
And it's always been my understanding with respect to the Law Enforcement Academy and maybe some of your other training that there's always kind of a wet and dry testing component. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Can you explain what that is?
So pretty much what that is we bring actually, we'll usually, lately we've been using like nurses that will come down. We'll actually get them to about a 0.08 level in a secured environment and actually have our officers run them through a field sobriety test and see where they're at, and pretty much judge our officers where they're at, making sure they're doing the test correctly. So we're actually doing like a wet lab for our officers.
And what is the purpose of seeing people in an intoxicated state in that particular training?
So the officers can actually see what they have in front of them, and also when it comes to the test that we're looking for with the field sobriety, we can indicate what their blood alcohol level is during that time period, or even if there's another drug that we may have to be looking at.
Now, you'd referenced a threshold of .08. What is the significance of that?
So in the state of Iowa, the per se level is actually .085, but the legal limit to operate a vehicle, mostly across the United States, is a .08 blood alcohol level.
Have you ever ascertained why? Like, why is that number kind of the line of demarcation for whether or not you can operate or not operate a motor vehicle?
So that's pretty much where they draw the line of intoxications. Again, not everywhere across the country is that way. There's some that are going lower at this point, but that's the line that I guess society has picked as the intoxication level at this point.
Have you observed in your training experience, and this includes your field time, responding, all that stuff, a difference in sort of levels of impairment? In other words, like, people that respond differently to alcohol?
Yes, correct. There's different levels. Different people handle it different ways, things like that, yes.
Can you just give me some examples of things you've seen with respect to, like, how different people may act?
It just depends on the size of the person, how small, but usually you always have like the slurred speech, the falling down, unable to comprehend. It's multitasking. It's usually when a person's intoxicated, they can't multitask. And that's a lot of the tests that we do kind of looks at that.
Do you see, I guess, changes in, like, cognition, like their understanding?
Correct. They're unable to comprehend what you're saying, or at least give you the answer and move forward from there, yeah.
Okay. If I said a blood alcohol content was 300 or more, what does that mean to you?
That's extremely high for an individual. We do see it, but that's one of the high numbers that we usually see for an operating while intoxicated or blood alcohol level.
How impaired are those people as it relates to someone who might be at .08, for example?
Majority of the population at .3 probably would not be awake when it comes down to it. If that's extremely high for most people, but if they do drink often, things like that, that is a possibility to be that high. Just shows that they have extreme tolerance when you're at a .3 or anything higher than that.
But those people would still be impaired, they would just be awake.
Correct. They're still impaired, definitely.
One moment. Nothing further, thank you.
Any further redirect?
Briefly, Your Honor. Mr. Puentes asked you about whether the defendant had a concussion or appeared to have a concussion. Just to be clear, I mean, do you know whether he had a concussion or not?
No, that's why I would have medical check him out at that point.
The pain that the defendant described on his left side, did he ever report to you how he incurred that pain or injury?
I asked him. I asked if he ended up doing that injury to himself. No.
And the blood that you saw in the vehicle, was that abnormal based on the car accident scene that you were also observing?
That would be normal on that situation. Plus, fire and medic personnel were already there, so I'm going to give it to the people that know what they're doing to check him over on that situation.
Also want to ask you a little bit about people functioning at different levels. So you said you're the OWI and like field or instructor for Scott County?
One of the couple, there's a few instructors for Scott County, but yes, I am one of them.
So have you observed individuals kind of along the whole spectrum of, you know, being not intoxicated at all to being highly intoxicated?
Correct. There is a range from pretty much showing no signs and then all the way to being passed out.
Okay, and if you have someone that's, let's say they just turned 21 and they've never had a drop of alcohol in their life, from what you've seen in your training and experience, or how would you expect that person to act at .08 compared to a heavy drinker?
If they're not used to it, majority of the people, if not all, but majority of the people would be showing a lot of signs of intoxication, unable to speak in a way, stumbling. You'll see that more if it's a person that's not used to it, or in that area, .08, .1, in that area, general area.
Okay, and if we keep going until someone's highly intoxicated, I think Mr. Fuentes threw out higher than 300. Have you seen people function better than others at that level?
People do function at that, but majority of the time that we've always seen them are the ones that are pretty much alcohol is a norm for them, is what it comes down to. If they have blood alcohol level of 0.3 or higher.
Okay, so someone that you said blood out or kind of using alcohol is the normal for them, are they able to function at that high of a level?
Yeah, we run into people that can function at that level, yes.
Okay, no further questions.
Mr. Puentes?
Very briefly, I understand you're not a medical professional, is that fair to say?
Very low level, but yes, no,
But you've been doing this for a very long time, correct?
yes,
You've seen a lot of things, is that correct?
I have.
And in this particular case, you saw a motor vehicle with significant front end damage, is that correct?
Correct.
Airbag deployment, is that correct?
That would be correct.
And a person who was rendered unconscious and simply coming to in the area of 8 minutes, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you think it's a logical leap to conclude a person may have a head injury?
It's a possible with a head injury, yes.
Thank you, nothing further.
Nothing
Mr.
further.
Wilson? All right, you may step down.
All right, thank you.
We are at 10:30. I think we'll take our morning break at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, I would remind you of your admonition. Please do not discuss this case amongst yourselves. Please continue to keep an open and attentive mind. We'll be in adjournment for approximately 10 to 15 minutes. Thank you.
All rise for the jury.
State may call its next witness.
State calls Jacob Turner.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Please have a seat there, and if you could just push the button to ensure your microphone is on. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you state and spell your name for the court reporter?
Jacob Turner, Jacobturner.
And what is your occupation?
Deputy Sheriff with the Scott County Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you been a deputy with the Scott County Sheriff's Office?
7.5 years.
Do you have any prior law enforcement experience before that?
Just in the jail.
Okay. And what did you do at the jail?
As a correctional officer.
And can you tell us about your education and training as it pertains to your job as a deputy?
I went through the Iowa Basic Law Enforcement Academy.
And are you a certified peace officer?
Yes.
And I assume you've been one for the last 7.5 years you've been a deputy.
Yes.
Were you working, I guess, what shift do you work?
Third shift, so 11 p.m. to 7 a.m.
And were you working as a deputy on that shift that would have started March 13th, 2024 and gone to March 14th, 2024?
Yes.
And were you dispatched to an area around East 90th and Harrison Street on that date? Do
Yes.
you remember what time that was?
Approximately, do you mind if I look at my notes quick?
Would looking at your notes refresh your memory
Yes.
as far as what time,
What time it came out, yeah.
Yes. You can look at your report and then shut it so you're
Yeah,
testifying
it's
from memory.
my report at 1:49 hours, 1:49 a.m.
What did you arrive on scene?
Approximately 5 or 6 minutes later.
I might have might have been a poor question, or maybe it wasn't quite. What did you observe when you arrived on scene?
I observed Lieutenant Leonard up at a vehicle which was in the median of the road, like the driveway going into the airport for the Davenport Airport. Observed the vehicle up against the light pole.
Okay, and do you know who was driving the vehicle?
Yes.
And who was driving the vehicle?
Christopher Behal.
Do you see that individual in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you point him out? And identify the article of clothing he's wearing.
Gray shirt and black tie.
May the record reflect that witness identified the defendant.
The record shall so reflect.
Did you make any unusual observations with respect to the defendant on the scene of the accident?
Observed he was barefoot and he had blood on his feet.
What did you do, or what was your role at the crash scene?
Just basic accident investigation, speaking with Lieutenant Leonard, just gathering registration information, insurance information, and basic scene investigation of trying to figure out what caused the crash.
Okay. Other than you and Lieutenant Leonard, was there anyone else on scene?
Davenport Fire and Scott County medic staff.
And what did medical staff do on scene?
They ended up getting the defendant into a cot and transporting him to Genesis East Hospital in Davenport.
Okay. And once the defendant was transported to Genesis East, what did you do?
I followed behind and continued with the accident investigation to follow up with the defendant.
At this point, what potential crimes were you investigating?
At that point, just the accident and potentially operating while intoxicated.
Were you wearing a body-worn camera at the hospital?
Yes.
Let's back up a minute. When you arrived at the hospital, what did you do?
I made contact with the nurses and walked back towards the area where the defendant was stationed with, like, in his room.
Okay, so you arrived, or you went to the room where the defendant was at?
Yeah.
What did you do when you arrived in that room?
I began just speaking to him about the accident and going over just basic, like, accident investigation questions at that point.
And what types of things were you doing to investigate the possible OWI?
Asking follow-up questions with how much, he had had a drink. We had mentioned that, medic had mentioned that the defendant had mentioned he had something to drink, and then on top of that, just asking if he remembered anything about the crash, what the last thing he remembered was, and so forth.
Okay, are you familiar with field sobriety tests?
Yes,
And are you trained to administer those?
yes,
Were you able to administer all of those to the defendant?
no.
Did you administer any of those tests to the
The
defendant?
horizontal gaze nystagmus test,
Okay. And is that also called like an HGN test?
yes.
And can you explain what that test is?
It shows involuntary movement of the eyes and through 3 categories. In order to, for example, each eye shows 1 clue each for each of the tests. So lack of smooth pursuit, for example, if it's, the best way to describe it is like watching a windshield wiper across a dry windshield. You're looking for like eyes jutting. And then nystagmus at maximum deviation, so reaching as far out as you can and looking for the involuntary movement of the eyes there. And then nystagmus onset of prior to 45 degrees. And same thing, you're looking for prior to a 45-degree angle, moving your finger back and forth. You hold it for 4 seconds, and if you can see the movement of the eyes.
Okay, and is that the test like you see in TV shows and movies where the officer has the subject follow their finger?
Yes.
Other than that test, did you administer any other tests?
I offered a preliminary breath test.
Okay, and are there other tests that are normally available that you did not administer in this case?
Yes.
And how come those were not administered?
The walk and turn and the 1-leg stand test were not administered based on him being essentially bedridden and in a neck brace, just for safety and injury purposes.
Okay, Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Handing Deputy Turner what's been marked as the State's Exhibit 41. I think you already testified that you were wearing your body-worn camera that evening.
Correct.
Was it functioning properly?
Yes.
And did your camera capture you coming into the room and then administering some of those tests?
Yes.
And did you review the clips of that video?
Yes.
And were they fair and accurate as far as what you observed that evening?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state would move to introduce State's Exhibit 31. Or excuse me, 41.
No objection.
Exhibit 41 will be admitted.
Permission to publish?
You may.
Okay, hopefully technology cooperates with us. I'm going to show 3 clips, which have previously been redacted. It's a little bit hard to see, but are you able to tell the timestamp on the first clip there that's starting to play?
Yes. 308.
And that'd be 3:08 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay. And where is this taken from, or what are we looking at?
The defendant in his hospital bed at Genesis East in the emergency room.
And so that's the defendant laying down there?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sure she's probably sleeping by now, but I don't have something to cover my feet. Yeah, I'll get to the nurses. Get the nurses for that. See if I can get you some socks or something. Just give me 1 second here. How much did you have to drink tonight, man? I know you were saying you had some alcohol.
Too much.
Too much? Fair enough. I know last time I saw you, you had some epilepsy issues. Do you think that you might have had something to do with that tonight too? Like maybe in and out of a seizure, or?
I'm sure it probably did.
Okay. I know I kind of heard what you were talking with the doctors about. Do you remember anything? Nothing from today at all? What's the last thing you remember?
Really nothing, honestly.
Okay. Do you know how you... So there was a knife. I know you just... Sorry, I'm getting... My ears getting...
There was a knife, and I don't really know how it got in the car, but
Okay.
like I know there was a reason why it was in the car,
Yeah.
but it was not like anything suicidal.
No, and I figured not. I mean, like I said, believe me, I've got pocket knives I'll leave in my cup holders and stuff.
Yeah, no, it was anything. It wasn't anything suicidal.
Did they take a look at your cut and figure out if that was from like a knife? Usually they can kind of tell.
I don't even know what the cut was from.
Okay.
Honestly, I can't even really move right now.
Okay, yeah, I know. Some of the questions kind of sound dumb. I'm just trying to make sure you're all right and everything else.
Yeah.
I have copy of your insurance card and your registration with me. I'll just leave that with your property. Here. Are you able to keep your eyes open for a little bit?
Yeah.
I just want to check your eyes while you're laying down. It's going to be kind of an awkward position. Are you good if I do that? Okay. Just keep your head still and look straight at my finger, okay? You think that's about a foot away from your face? Give or take a couple inches?
Give or take.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to start moving it. Just follow with your eyes only, okay? Keep your head still for me. I've never had to do this with someone laying down, so just bear with me. Keep looking at my finger, man. I know it's probably super awkward.
I'm trying to, man.
You're good. Alright. We're gonna go back that way. Okay, now we're gonna go up, like back towards your head, okay? Okay, you can...
Okay, that was the end of the first clip. Are you able to tell what time that ended
3:12 a.m.
and how many seconds?
20.
Okay, moving on to the second clip. Before we start it, can you tell us what time this clip starts?
3:17:07 a.m.
Okay, so this would have been the same evening, essentially.
Yes.
Okay. And the test you just administered, was that the HGN test that you previously described?
Yes.
Okay, starting clip number 2.
I know I asked the
Here, I'll cover your
charging
feet.
nurse if I could contact my girlfriend or like try to contact her.
Let me see 1 second here. It's still Taylor, right?
Yes.
Okay. Like I said, my partner went up to try to call her and knock on the door too. No answer, but
Yeah, she's not gonna answer.
okay.
Because there's nobody living there.
Do you guys move?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your updated address?
Her updated address, I don't know where she is. I just know her phone number.
Okay. Random off-topic question. You good with computers?
Like right now, no.
Obviously, I wouldn't like have you fix something, but what the hell? My freaking screen went all dark, and the brightness bar will not work. Is Taylor's number still?
I honestly don't know what her number is.
Okay.
So I gotta look on my phone.
Okay. Sorry, man. I'm just trying to help you as much as I can.
Oh, you're good, man. Like, I'm not trying to blame you for nothing.
Believe me, I get it.
You're all good, dog.
I get it stressful with that fucking alarm going off and
No, you're good.
me sitting here talking to you.
No, I understand.
I gotta read this shit to you quick.
Okay.
It's very dry, so bear with me.
Okay.
The implied consent law that requires that a peace officer advise a person of the following. Refusal to submit to the withdrawal of a body specimen for chemical testing will result in revocation of your privilege to operate a motor vehicle for 1 year with no previous revocations within 12 years prior under the implied consent or drunk driving laws of this state, or 2 years if you have one or more revocations within the previous 12 years. If you're under 18, the revocation will be for the above periods or until you reach age 18, whichever is longer. Refusal to submit to a blood or urine test for drugs other than alcohol or a combination of alcohol and another drug constitutes a refusal, and the above mentioned periods for revocation apply. If you consent to chemical testing and the results indicate an alcohol concentration of 0.08 or more, or if the test results indicate the presence of a controlled substance or drug or a combination of alcohol and another drug in violation of the Iowa Code for OWI 321J.2, the department shall revoke your privilege to operate a motor vehicle for a period of 180 days with no previous revocations within the past 12 years under the drunk driving or implied consent law, or 1 year if you have one or more previous revocations under those provisions. If you're under 18, the revocation is for the above periods or until you reach age 18, whichever is longer. If you're under age 21, and the test results indicate concentration of 0.02 but less than 0.08, your license is revoked for 60 days if you have no previous revocation in the previous 12 years, or 90 days if you have a previous revocation under the code within the past 12 years. You don't have a CDL, do you?
No, but I deny
Okay.
testing
Okay.
any
Nope, you're good.
blood alcohol.
Oh, knock my head off.
Is that understood?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm not. Doesn't affect me at all.
Oh, I just want to understand, like, that you understand what I'm saying.
Yep. So I just have to officially say I was going to request a blood draw because you can't breathe, like, give a breath sample right now.
Right.
I'll just, since you're kind of hung up there, you mind if I just mark that you refused?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm not drunk. It's just been a fucking rough fucking week.
Okay, so that's the end of the second clip from Exhibit 41. Want to break a few things down. You were reading from a document to the defendant when he was in his hospital bed. What was that document you were reading?
The Iowa Implied Consent Advisory.
Okay, and can you tell the jury what that is?
Essentially, it's an advisory you have to provide to a suspect for an OWI case, advising them what the repercussions are if they take a test and they test over the legal limit, or if they refuse a test, what the repercussions are for their license. It's on the administrative side of like an OWI for the state.
So it's something you read to an OWI investigation?
Yes.
At that point, were you investigating anything else?
No.
Okay, and going back to the HGN test that you did, we didn't talk about, what were the results of that test?
I observed 6 out of 6 clues indicating impairment, as well as vertical nystagmus, which isn't necessarily a clue of impairment, but in training and experience, I've always been told if you can observe vertical nystagmus, it usually means a high level of impairment.
Okay, and going to you talked about 6 out of 6 clues. Are those clues the things that you're looking for when administering the test?
Yes.
And in general terms, the more clues you show, what does that indicate?
Once you reach 2 clues, that shows that they failed the test.
Okay. And then what time did that second clip end?
3:22, 13 seconds.
Okay, and moving on to the third clip.
The socks would be fucking, that would be amazing. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Socks on my phone, like, if, I know, like, how they are about phones, but, like,
Like I said, I can, if my boss is good with it, I can run over and get your phone out of your car and bring it back here.
I'd appreciate that.
I'm not gonna make you a promise on that. I gotta ask him first.
I get that. At least if I could get the phone number,
Yep.
so I could, like, try to call from the hospital phone. So I don't know her phone number by heart. I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem. I can actually probably, I think we updated her phone number last time I talked to her when you came down here from Parkview. I can probably get it off my computer here if my computer wants to cooperate.
That'd be amazing. Not that I don't think she'd answer. She's probably asleep right
Well,
now.
it's not worth a try. You never know.
Not that she fucking probably cares at this point.
28. Can you send me a chat, please?
Okay, and what time is that stopped at?
3:27 and 8 seconds.
And I don't think we talked about when it started. I'm gonna backtrack it just to get a timestamp for when it started, for the record. When did that start?
3:25, 18 seconds.
Okay. Did you continue, speaking with the defendant?
Yes,
At some point, did the nature of the investigation change?
yes.
And, why did the investigation start to change?
As I was speaking to the defendant, he mentioned at first he mentioned he had to tell me something because he was concerned for the welfare of the victim. And then as I was,
Oh, was that Taylor?
yes, Taylor.
Okay.
And then as I was seated next to his bed, he told me he had images in his head of beating Taylor with a bat.
Okay. And at that point, what was the focus of the investigation?
Just a welfare check, safety for Taylor at that point.
Okay. And, what did you do after learning that information?
I had left the room and notified my supervisor, Lieutenant Leonard, and then requested he call me. And I informed him of what was said, and a plan was made to go attempt to make entry into the apartment to conduct a welfare check.
And, was that portion of the investigation, recorded with the defendant as well?
Yes.
Okay, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Pending, Deputy Turner, what's been marked as State's Exhibit 1. Have you had a chance to review State's Exhibit 1, which documents that conversation?
Yes.
And is it a fair and accurate representation of your, of the observations that evening from that conversation?
Yes.
The state moves to introduce State's Exhibit 1.
No objection.
Exhibit 1 will be admitted.
Permission to publish?
You may.
And what time is this starting at?
3:49, 51 seconds.
My sound is not cooperating.
The
again.
first minute,
Okay.
the audio didn't work.
the car when we were.
She wasn't in the car, no.
Okay.
But unfortunately, I made some. Can you shut this shit off, please, so I can actually
Yeah.
like have a conversation with you, please?
Yeah. Let me grab this. I don't want to hit the wrong button, so I'll see if they can. Jesus, every time I think it's done. That's about police code to put on 103.
So it's like.
You need me to sign it and give you a copy?
Sure, actually, yeah. I never have, but I'm sure they'll look at any reason they can to yell at somebody, so.
On CSU.
Yeah.
And. Yeah.
And like I
pull a
get it.
sticker out of
It's
his
like
room.
Okay.
scary and frustrating, and she can like be funny, but at the same time, she's been here for. I mean, she's been here for almost 11 hours, and she's improved rather than.
And is there like a button to hit to clear that beeping? Oh.
Sorry, you're all tangled up.
You're good. It's not your fault. I'm the piece of shit here.
You're not.
No, trust me, I am.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way about yourself.
Was I, can I ask you, was I covered in blood when I came in here?
Me? I did not see you to be
You
honest.
had like your feet were cut up, I think, and then you've got your.
Were my hands covered in blood?
I don't know about your hands. My boss came out with you first. But you've got a couple cuts like right here on your side. That's why we were asking like if the knife might have like went flying.
Okay, that's why I really need to ask you. My address is 105
Crestview.
City Drive. The apartment code is 50. It's apartment 4. I need to make sure she's alive.
We went there and knocked and she didn't answer. We know the door code and everything. Thank you.
But
What makes you concerned that she's not?
I don't know.
Okay.
Something in my mind makes me feel like I did something. I don't think I would have ever done anything like that to her. Because I'm not like that.
Were you guys having a fight earlier today?
No.
Okay.
But
Is it just kind of some thoughts you're having just because we know she didn't answer yet?
yeah, kind of.
What else, like, I mean,
He just filled it or?
No, I'm just talking with him quick and
Okay, because I was gonna say Doc said he's probably admitting, so.
yeah, I figured that.
I'm really fucking scared that I have these pictures in my head that, like, I beat her with a baseball bat.
Okay.
And, like, I know that's incriminating myself, but
Well, at this point, it's for the safety of everyone involved.
I need to make sure that she's okay.
Nope, I can send another deputy up there to see if we can go check for her, okay? Do you have your keys to your apartment in your car? Or, like, are they on your car keys?
Yeah, they're on my keychain. They're the gold ones, not the silver ones.
Okay. Chris, you're not a piece of shit. I've been doing this job a long time, and I've seen some pieces of shit. I did a lot of stuff with... I was a drug investigator. I've seen some people who are pieces of shit as far as what they've done to... And I've done stuff with child crimes. Stuff I don't even want to talk about. You don't even want to imagine. You're not a piece of shit. You're a guy down on his luck.
If there's anything that I did that's going through my head, then
Okay. Let me get a hold of my boss and just have him go up there and check on her. I'm sure she's okay. That's still where she's staying?
no, she can't. You can't check on her though. You gotta.
Okay. Well, let me at least figure out what I can do to see if she's okay.
Is there any way to like check on her without?
Well, we're not going to go boot the door in, but we'll try to make contact with her and just make sure she's okay. Okay?
Okay.
That's why I asked about your keys so we can get in there without, like, forcing entry.
Okay, I just want to make sure
Yep.
she's okay. Like, don't.
And we'll let you know if she is. Okay?
Anyway, so she's scared of the abdomen, and she does have
6 from 20. I need you to call me as soon as you can, please.
I'm gonna pause it for just a moment at 3:58:20. Who was it that you were just calling?
Lieutenant Leonard.
Okay, I'll continue.
Hey, we need to go up to the apartment and check if that girl's in there and she's dead or not. He just told me he was having images of him beating her with a baseball bat. He said his keys are in the car. We can do that so we don't have to ram the door. I'm leaving right now. I can go to Fred's and get the keys. And have him grab the phone too, please. I'll head up there with you. All right, thank you. Oh, excuse me, sorry about that. Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
Excuse me. I'm clear from east. I'm going to be in right up to Parkview at his address. Go ahead. You're on recording, by the way.
You good? What's going on?
He might have killed his girlfriend. I don't know yet.
What do you mean?
He just told me he said, I need to know if she's alive. I said, what are you talking about? We just tried to go knock. He gave me his address and the door code. Hang on. He said he gave me the address and the door code, and he said images are going through my head of me beating her to death with a baseball bat.
6 feet up there also.
6, I'm on PBX, I'm not advised now. So, Raby's gonna go get the keys out of the car. just post up in the area, and we'll go see.
Okay, okay.
All right. Dispatch 28. Chris has been placed on a police hold at least. Can you run a vehicle dump on that female that I provided you in the chat? See if she has anything registered.
Great, I'm great. Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, near the end of that exhibit, you talked on the phone with someone. Was that Lieutenant Leonard you were speaking with?
The first phone call I took, yes.
Okay, and how about the second phone call?
Deputy Slagle.
Okay. And you mentioned Fred's. Fred's has been mentioned a couple times, I think, on the video. What is Fred's?
Fred's Towing in
And-
Davenport.
Was that where the Impala was taken after the accident, to your
Yes.
knowledge?
Yes.
Obviously, the end of that exhibit shows you in your squad car driving. Where are you driving to at this point?
The defendant's residence in Parkview.
Okay. And did you arrive there?
Yes.
And what did you do when you arrived at the defendant's residence?
So Deputy Slagle and Lieutenant Leonard arrived before me, and I heard them advise that they had located a body inside over the radio. So I walked up, and they were standing in the common entryway of the fourplex apartment building, and I could see in the doorway as I made entry up there.
Okay. And did you take part in the investigation on the scene?
Yes.
And what was your role at the apartment?
Pretty much just scene security.
Okay. Did you attempt to speak to any other residents of that apartment?
Yes, I also did canvassing, yes.
Okay. And when you say canvassing, what does canvassing mean?
Canvassing is where you knock on the door of, neighboring apartments, buildings, houses, and just see if the residents may have seen, heard anything that could be relevant or pertinent.
Okay. Do you recall speaking to a resident named Dylan Carr?
Yes.
And if you're shown a picture of the apartment, would you be able to show where Dylan Carr lived?
Yes.
And would you be able to point out where the defendant's residence was and where the body was found?
Yes.
And our permission to publish Defense Exhibit A, which was admitted yesterday.
You may.
Okay, first, I'm showing the witness must have been marked as Defendant's Exhibit A. Do you recognize this building?
Yes.
What is that building?
The defendant's apartment complex.
So that'd be the 105 Crestview.
105 Crestview Drive, yes.
And there's a pointer right behind you. Could you point to where Dylan Carr's residence was?
That was this one here.
Okay. And could you point to where the defendant's residence was?
If it's possible, your screen might be used. Thank you, sorry.
This was Mr. Carr's. And then the defendant's is this one up here.
Okay. No further questions at this time.
Ms. Striegel.
Your Honor. Good morning, Deputy Taylor.
Turner.
I'm going to ask you a few questions, and hopefully I'll go in some kind of chronological order, but bear with me if I don't, okay? Now, you were dispatched at approximately 1:49, is that right?
Correct.
So that's, with respect to this investigation, that's one of the important times, correct?
Correct.
At least with respect to what you did.
Yes.
And it's my understanding from your testimony that you arrived approximately 5 minutes after you were dispatched, is that right?
Correct.
Now, you don't know exactly when that crash occurred, is that correct?
Correct.
You just were dispatched there and arrived there knowing that there was a crash, correct?
Yes.
So you don't know how long the driver had been there, it was just a matter of a 911 call came in at some point, correct?
Yes.
And you also don't know how long Mr. Behal was unconscious in that motor vehicle before you arrived?
Correct.
And it was heavily raining when you arrived.
Yes.
Had it been raining for several hours, do you recall?
I don't recall.
And when you arrived, Lieutenant Leonard was already there.
Yes.
And when you arrived, Mr. Behal was kind of coming to, is that right?
Yes.
And he seemed pretty confused.
Yes.
He didn't know where he was,
Correct.
and he didn't know who owned the car that he was in,
That sounds correct.
and he didn't know how he got to the place where he was.
Correct.
And from this point, then, that's when fire and medic are starting to come, is that correct?
Yes.
And they make the decision that you're gonna, or he's gonna be transported to Genesis East, is that right?
Yes.
When you were there, at the scene, before they transported him, did you see an injury on him?
Just his feet were bloody.
Okay, did you see anything on his side?
Not at that point, no. We were just advised by fire.
And could you see any cuts on his feet?
No.
And did you see the knife?
Yes.
And where was the knife?
At first it was in the vehicle, and then Lieutenant Leonard pulled it out of the vehicle and I believe set it on top of it somewhere.
He set it on top of it
Yeah.
of the vehicle in the rain, is that
Yeah,
right?
Yes.
And again, my question was, did you see that? Did you see the knife?
Yes.
Okay. And when you got, you followed the ambulance to Genesis East, is that correct?
Yes.
And your job was just to process this OWI or investigate the OWI, is that right?
Yes.
You didn't have an OWI kit with you, did you?
I don't believe so.
And you had called and asked another officer to bring one, is that right?
Sounds right, yes.
And do those OWI kits expire?
Yes.
How long do they generally not expire? How long are they valid?
I'm not sure.
Okay. When you got the OWI kit, did you check to see if it was expired?
I don't recall.
Okay. Is there anything in refreshing your report that would help you know whether or not that was expired?
I can check if that's okay.
Permission, Your Honor, to have him refresh his recollection with his report?
No objection.
You may.
I don't see anything in here that would say if it was expired or not.
Okay. Did you later discover whether it was expired?
I don't recall.
And while you were at Genesis Eats in the initial conversation that you had with Mr. Behal, you knew who he was, correct?
Yes.
And you knew where he lived, is that correct?
Yes.
And at this point, it seemed kind of like a suicide, is that right?
Not necessarily. We just wanted, with the knife and his wound, we just wanted to cross all of our T's, essentially, if you will, and just make sure if that was ruled out.
So but there were indications that possibly suicide coupled with the OWI, is that right?
We believe that could be a possibility, yes.
And so at that time, you had determined that nothing was exceptionally urgent.
Correct.
During your conversation with Mr. Behal, he tried to sit up when he was talking to you. Do you recall that?
I remember him moving around and watching the video, but
And do you remember him saying it hurts and that he was having pain?
no.
Do you remember seeing any of the blood?
Yes.
Okay. And where was the blood located?
Like under it was like soaking through the sheets on his abdomen.
Okay. And when you were watching in the video, did you see a couple places on that video where there was spots of blood?
Yes.
And they were in a circular shape, is that right?
Yes.
And how many inches in diameter do you think that circle was?
Approximately like 2 to 3.
Okay. And during the time that Mr. Behal and you were talking, it seemed that you and Mr. Behal were getting kind of annoyed with the machine's buzzer going off. Is that right?
Yes.
And he had asked you to get a nurse to help with that. Is that right?
Yes.
He continued to seem confused at that time, correct?
He didn't know where he was at or where he remembered much per him.
And this was the point that you switched over to the OWI test kit, and you asked him kind of about his drinking that night. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And he said he had too much to drink, correct?
Correct.
But he wasn't able to give you an amount, is that right?
Correct.
Either that or he just didn't remember, is that right?
Right.
And it's my understanding, when you were at the scene, you didn't see any alcohol bottles in the car?
No.
So it didn't appear that he had been drinking at the scene, correct?
Correct.
At this point, he asked for his phone, is that right?
Yes.
And he wants to contact his girlfriend, correct?
Yes.
And you radioed to another officer to make contact with her at the Parkview address. Is
Yes.
that right?
On my way to the hospital, we initially did that for the first time.
Okay. And another deputy did go to that address, correct?
Yes.
And you got reports that there was no answer at the door, correct?
Correct.
And you relayed that information to Mr. Behal, is that correct?
Yes.
During his conversation with you, he told you you heard that he had epileptic seizures. That was one of his kind of medical conditions, is that right?
Yes.
He told you that you were asking him what the last thing he remembered was. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And he said nothing, is that right?
Yes.
And that do you recall him, do you recall asking him about the cut on his left side?
Yes.
And do you recall asking him where that laceration came from?
Yes.
And Mr. Behal didn't know, did he?
No.
You then asked Mr. Behal about the knife. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And Mr. Behal didn't know how the knife got in the car. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And at this point, you decided to do the horizontal gaze nystagmus, or start the field sobriety test,
Yes.
I should say. And you made the decision that only one of those field sobriety tests would be pertinent in the condition that Mr. Behal was in. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, excuse me.
So, as Mr. Behal, you believe that you could still do the horizontal gaze nystagmus with Mr. Behal laying down. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And you had never done this test with somebody laying down, is that correct?
Correct.
And you had never been trained to do this test with somebody laying down, correct?
Correct.
And at this point that you start to do or just before you start to do the horizontal gaze nystagmus, you also understood that Mr. Behal was in a very severe head-on crash just moments before, or possibly moments before you arrived, correct?
Correct.
And that Mr. Behal could be suffering from a head injury, correct?
Correct.
And so anything going on with his eyes could have been impacted not just by the alcohol that you smelled, but also the head injury. Is that correct?
Correct.
Or the possible head injury.
Correct.
And at that time, Mr. Behal hadn't seen a doctor to diagnose make a diagnosis of his head injury.
I'm going to object, calls for speculation and or hearsay.
Sustained.
To which objection is it sustained, Your Honor?
It's sustained.
Mr. Larson verbalized two bases for the objection.
Sustained on both.
Thank you, Your Honor. When you checked Mr. Behal's, did the horizontal gaze nystagmus, Mr. Behal was having difficulties following your finger, is that right?
He would continue to move his head.
And you knew that he was confused, right?
Yes.
And it was, even in spite of Mr. Behal's confusion, the severe head-on collision, and the possibility of alcohol in his system, you felt that doing this test was appropriate. Is that correct?
Yes.
With respect to the horizontal gaze nystagmus, there are two parts to that. Is that right? The vertical and then the horizontal.
Yes.
I shouldn't say two parts because you may think there are more than two, right? So there's the horizontal and the vertical. And the vertical is my understanding that it can test for drugs as one thing, correct?
Yes.
And also a higher level of intoxication, is that right?
Yes.
And you also tested Mr. Behal for the vertical nystagmus, is that correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Behal did, in your opinion, did Mr. Behal have vertical gaze nystagmus?
Yes.
So at that point, did you determine that either there could be drugs involved or a higher level of alcohol consumption?
Yes.
But at this point, you couldn't rule out which one of them it was, is that right?
Correct, excuse me.
It's my understanding that no drugs were located in the vehicle or on Mr. Behal's person, is that correct?
Yes.
And after you did the horizontal gaze nystagmus test, Mr. Behal again asked about his girlfriend, Taylor. Do you
Yes.
recall that? He wanted you to contact Taylor again, or contact her, is that correct?
Yes.
And at this point, you remind him that officers or deputies already went to the location, is that right?
Yes.
And you remind him that they were unable to make contact with her,
Yes.
correct? And would you say his answers or the fact that you're having to remind him, he seemed confused, couldn't remember what was going on?
Possibly, yes.
And Mr. Behal stated that nobody was living at the Parkview address
Yes.
to you. And you knew that what you last knew is that they were, both Taylor and Mr. Behal were living at that address.
Yes.
And Mr. Behal also stated to you that he didn't know where Taylor's address was, correct?
Yes.
And that he didn't know where she was.
Yes.
And these statements, all of these statements are confusing, aren't they?
Yes.
And then Mr. Behal again asked you to contact his girlfriend, Taylor, correct?
Yes.
Did Mr. Behal seem to be retaining the information that you were telling him?
No.
You invoked then and read through that implied consent advisory that we just watched, and I believe Exhibit 1. Or is it Exhibit
It was
41? 41C, or the third one.
Yes.
And at the end of that, Mr. Behal kind of makes a statement about him refusing the further testing, is that right?
Yes.
Did it seem like a strange statement that the way he made it?
Not necessarily. I've had people do that before.
Okay. And after that, then Mr. Behal says that he wasn't drunk, right?
Yes.
Is it common for somebody that has been drinking to say they're not drunk?
Yes.
At this point, Mr. Behal asks for his phone again,
Yes.
and he wants to again call Taylor, is that correct?
Yes.
And you told him you were attempting to find a number in your system for her,
Yes.
and that was when you asked him about if he knew the number,
Yes.
and Mr. Behal said he couldn't remember the number, it was in his phone, is that right?
Yes.
And you had to go retrieve some OWI forms for Mr. Behal to sign?
Just to deliver to him.
Okay, to deliver to him. And so you had to leave the room for a brief moment, is that right?
Yes.
And with Mr. Behal was by himself or with medical personnel, not with another officer at that time, is that right?
Yes.
And Mr. Behal asked about Taylor again
Oh my goodness.
after you come back.
Yes.
And he asks again, what's going on?
Yes.
And this is when he asks if Taylor is okay.
Yes.
And he also makes a statement that she wasn't in the car at this time, correct?
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Behal then makes some more kind of odd statements. He starts saying he was a piece of shit while the nurse was in there, correct?
Yes.
He asked if he was covered, if his hands were covered in blood when he arrived, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And then he starts making more conversation about, is Taylor alive? Or he wants to find out if Taylor's still alive, right?
Yes.
All of this, would you say all of this information that you're getting from what seems to be an OWI investigation is starting to be confusing to even you?
Yes.
And you get concerned,
Yes.
and you relay this information that you got from Mr. Behal about needing to find out if Taylor is alive to other officers.
Yes.
And those other officers tell you to just keep him talking, is that right?
No, I don't believe so.
Mr. Behal states he's very scared, correct?
Yes.
He starts crying.
Yes.
He states he has these pictures or images in his head, correct?
Yes.
And he doesn't seem to understand why he has those pictures and images in his head, does he?
No.
And you asked further about those pictures and images, correct?
Yes.
And he eventually tells you that the image of he sees is of himself beating Taylor with a bat.
Yes.
And at this point, you know that Mr. Behal has forgotten some of the hours that has been lived previously, correct?
Yes.
And that he's only having some, what seem to be pictures or images of that night.
Yes.
He told you he'd had about 1 hour of sleep in the last 3 days, correct?
I don't recall him saying that, but
Do you recall talking to him about how much sleep he'd had?
no.
And you stayed with Mr. Behal until you were relieved, is that correct?
I left after making my phone calls, and then my relief showed up after I'd already left.
So you already left with Mr. Behal in the hospital and no officer or deputy there with him, is that correct?
Yes.
And that's when you went to the apartment?
Yes.
and Deputy Slagle and and Lieutenant Leonard were already there, is that correct?
Yes.
And the role you played there was just scene security, is that correct?
Yeah, and canvassing it after that.
And then you canvassed after that?
Yes.
Nothing further?
Mr. Larson?
Very briefly, Your Honor. During your interaction with the defendant, you were asking him questions and conversing with him,
Yes.
and did he appear to be tracking your questions and answering them reasonably appropriately?
Yes.
No further questions.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
You may step down. As it is basically right at noon, we will take our afternoon break for lunch. Ladies and gentlemen, I would remind you of your admonition. Please do not discuss this case amongst yourselves, and please continue to keep an open and attentive mind. I'd ask that you return at 1:20 to be checked in by my court attendant back to the jury room, and hopefully we'll start promptly at 1:30. Thank you. Enjoy your lunch.
All rise, the jury.